Hello, people of the world watching retro car reviews on the internet. Welcome to this, my 1990 Honda CRX SI, which is the new restoration series here on my channel. I'm going to do a full bare metal resto mod on this car, and subsequently this was also my very first car in high school. So today I'm going to get up in the air, we're going to nerd out in the tech specs, see how this was once constructed, and then go give it the 250,000 mile beans. Heidi ho, neighbor. I'm gonna overload you with 90s references. First things first, if that isn't, that's what that is. I've been hearing this incessant rattling and it's a washer. If that is not a pea shooter, I don't know what is. It's actually a double pea shooter. There we go, no more rattle. Well, it's not the factory muffler, it's close enough, and it's stainless, fancy. Single center mounted recovery point, as well as frame mounted side tie downs. And yes, keep in mind this is gonna be dirty under here. This is pre-restoration. It's got a brand new fuel tank on it already. One up. Out back, the 1990 Honda CRX SI utilized the multi-control double wishbone rear suspension configuration. Yes, in a front wheel drive car in the early 90s. All of which is constructed out of steel, including the knuckles. It's actually a really clever design that they came up with. You can see this arm travels forward like you see on some front wheel drive cars, mounts to a bushing right here, but then it further continues on, mounts to another bushing, and then another arm that can pivot and mounts right here. Whoa, that's neat. It's got little brake cooling ducts. That must have been ahead of its time. The dampers are holy shit, no way. This has got genuine Honda damper. It can't be the original one. It's got 220,000 miles on it. From the factory, this would have been paired with a set of progressive rate springs. However, this one is lowered on a lowering spring, which is manufactured by H&R. Rear anti-sway bar. I think this is the smallest I've ever measured. Measures in at approximately, might be tied with the MX-5, 15 millimeter in diameter. That's definitely solid. The 1990 Honda CRX SI, or in Japan as it's known as Parada Sports, chassis code EF8 or ED9 here in the States, weighed in at 2,167 pounds, or if you opted for the HF model, only 1,819 pounds in its first model year. Following the little pea shooter forward, single resonator, there's heat shielding wrapped around this. I gotta get creative to measure. Do it back here. Mid pipe measures in at approximately, pea shooter, 41 millimeter in diameter, or approximately sausage in the SAE. You pay attention to this ridge in the unibody, front and rear subframes are actually connected together, which is kind of unique for a front wheel drive. You can see the dual rods for the shift linkage. As far as the transmission is concerned, the CRX SI came with Honda's in-house designed PL3 cable operated 5-speed manual transaxle with an open differential and a 4.25 final drive ratio. This one's equipped with the automatic undercarriage lubrication system to help prevent corrosion. In the steering department, manual rack and pinion, and on top of that it is a variable ratio rack with 4.1 turns lock to lock. It's actually really easy to access considering this is transverse front wheel drive. I like that design. The subframe right above it. Up front, again, you have a double wishbone suspension configuration, or unequal length A-arm as some call it. All steel in construction to include front knuckles. Again, paired with those in-house designed coilover strut Honda brand front dampers with H&R lowering springs. You can see where the damper fork attaches to this lower arm, and then that ball joint doesn't look too happy. I gotta be careful when I'm giving it the cheese whiz in the corners. A front anti-sway bar, which does mount directly to the bottom of the front subframe, measures in at approximately 18 millimeter in diameter. You can see it's leaking right there by the crank pulley, or somewhere on the front timing cover. The under engine panel, this is a little tiny guy right here, which I am so amazed this is not missing. It's now pouring out, so this is gonna be interesting. It's time for the braking test. Nothing behind me. Ready, set, stop. Oh, okay. that was a little bit slower than I normally do it at. But as you can clearly see what happens in these conditions, super, oh, it stinks. I saved this for the very last thing to film just in case. That braking was just made possible thanks to a little single piston caliper with a 242 millimeter or 9.5 inch front rotor. The wheels, they are aftermarket. They're a 15 by 6.5 with a positive 38 millimeter offset MB alloy wrapped in a set of 205/50 15-inch Kumo Esta date coded 2008 tires. And on top of that, they're all seasons. That should be fun. Originally, this SI model would have came with a 14 by 5 wrapped in a 185/60 14, but I don't have the original wheels with it, so. Front inner fender liner is unfortunately partially missing on this car, and ride height, about a finger's width of those H&R lowering springs. 1990 marked the first model year of the second generation CRX's facelift in the United States. Little changes to the bumper cover and lights. This one is equipped with the optional SI front lip. The original owner of this car, which owned it for almost its entire life, installed these projector fog lamps. These must have been expensive back in the day. A pinch welder in phenomenal shape still for this car's age. Rear inner fender liners on these cars were a mixture of rubber undercoated sheet metal and plastic. No way, it still has the little plastic guard right here. That's wild. The 1990 models also incorporated a facelifted tail lamp that has this little tint area around the outside. I'm a big fan of that. Outback, again, a single piston caliper with a 239 mil or 2.4 inch rear rotor. That was one thing you got with the 90 model SI was 4-wheel disc brakes. The wheel and tire, same size as you have up front. In the name of science, it is now time to give it the bean. All right, full steering assessment. The 90 and 91 SIs were finished in these almost corduroy-like cloth seats. It's interior code K, off black to be exact. They're so comfy. As far as drive modes go, it's a 90s Honda. I am the drive mode. As far as traction control goes, I am the traction control. The shifter feel is not what it used to be after 250,000 miles. That's in gear. That's out of gear. I cannot wait to fix the AC in this car. Summertime in Arizona and it's monsoon, so it's super humid right now. Because 1990, it's got a traditional Rip-It style e-brake. I'm gonna go a little light on the launch because these are date coded 2008 tires. So let's see what this thing can do. Ready? A little bit of wheel spin. Get it! Yeah! Let it eat! It's actually kind of quick. I was trying to be really easy that I didn't spin the tires because they're like chalk right now. Good pop. Boy, does that feel familiar. The hood is neither light nor is it heavy. It's just kind of in the middle. It's definitely steel. No hood struts because it's 1990 here, people. They do give you a little rubber pad on the prop rod though. Honda Motor Co. Ltd. Made in Japan. That is the engine bay of a car that has traveled 220,000 miles and sat for almost a decade after the original owner passed away. Underneath the hood of the 1990 Honda CRX SI is the D16A6, which is an all aluminum 1.6 liter single overhead cam naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that produces 108 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 100 pound-feet of torque at 5,000 RPM. It revs all the way up to a fuel cut of 7,200 RPM. Now there are multiple different engines available with this car. However, I'm just going to concentrate on what we have right here. Coolant expansion chamber as well as washer fluid reservoir. You'll notice the valve cover is actually wrinkle finished aluminum, high voltage distributor based ignition. See the fuel rail right where the intake manifold attaches to the cylinder head. Pretty simple layout. You got the air box that goes directly into the intake manifold. Don't worry about how that battery's held down. It's temporary. The vice grips clamping the air box down are not standard. That is a aftermarket equipment. Programmed fuel injection. One of my earliest memories of driving burnt into my brain is the sound of the whistle from the throttle body on this intake manifold. Engine cooling fan on passenger side, AC condenser fan over on the driver's side. Digging a little bit deeper on this 1590cc four-banger, it is undersquared at a 75 by 90 millimeter bore and stroke with a 9.1:1 compression ratio. Moving up to the cylinder head, it is a single cam with 4 valves per cylinder. It does also employ Honda's PGM-FI, which is a multi-point programmed fuel injection, port fuel injection system. It also incorporates a distributor-based ignition system, and this does have a timing belt. If you actually notice the top of the strut tower right here, the damper is cambered fairly far inward, aiding in this thing's handling ability. Vacuum-based brake booster. As you can see, it is equipped with air conditioning, but doesn't currently work. Honda battery hold down and rods, and a brand new battery correct group. There, safe to drive. All right, little D series, I just need you to perform for me one last time. Here goes. Beans. A little bit of torque steer. I'm gonna go one window up, one window down. I have to because I got no AC. So I apologize if there's a little bit of wind noise. Get it? It's so wild. Even with the amount of miles on this car and the fact that the tires are basically made of chalk at this point, it still handles better than a fairly good percentage of new vehicles I reviewed today. 4-wheel double wishbone suspension, and the fact that it only weighs 2,100 pounds. That's less than 1,000 kilograms for you metric people. Now, I grew up in the state of New Hampshire. Anyone that's ever driven there knows what the notches are. Just windy roads that go all throughout the state. So, I mean, I feel super privileged that I was able to have a car like this as my first car in that type of a driving environment. Especially of harsh winters, and I drove my CRX in the winter time. So, it's a crash course, no pun intended, in learning how to drive in a car like this in an environment like that. All 4 shocks in this thing are completely blown out. I'm just basically riding on spring at this point. One of the downsides of new cars today is that we've advanced so far in automotive technology that they mask speed for the most part really well. So it kind of takes away from the driving experience. It makes it feel like the speed limits are just ridiculously too low. But then you drive a car like this, and you can drive at the speed limit, and it's exhilarating. Switching directions. The transmission, you can hear a little bit of a hum sound. That's from the ring around the shift boot vibrating on the shift rod. It's better condition, I would say, than the one I had in high school, which had the same amount of mileage, basically. I can tell whoever owned this car kind of drove it with care. Even with the shifter being kind of worn out bushings, it's still so satisfying to grab gears in this thing. Benefit of only being a 2-seater here in the States, storage space. The rear storage compartment thankfully still has all its interior pieces. This little car actually has a massive amount of storage space. There's these neat little flip up side lids to access things, as well as an incandescent light back here. Amazingly enough, this little thing isn't broken either. That's pretty rare. Yep. Got miles of legroom. Even for drivers too, like this is tall people friendly. Behind the front seats is another storage cubby. In Japan and possibly Europe, I believe, you could get electric windows, but in the US, crank only. The door cards have the matching off black cloth that says CRX. And then everything else is finished in a gray vinyl. To include the entire headliner, that was also gray vinyl. Mine's kind of aged a bit. While in the States, you got this little power moonroof. In Japan, they had a glass top version where the whole roof was bronze tinted glass. The carpet in the CRX SI is actually pretty plush too. In the United States, this was a ashtray, but in Japan, it actually had a label that said personal storage device. Also a circular 12-volt outlet or cigarette lighter if you had one. As far as the infotainment system goes, it does not have the original Honda head unit. There was multiple different optional ones you could get from the factory, as well as an equalizer that would fill this bottom void, or an optional CD player, which would have been really unique in 1990. As far as the climate control goes, in Japan you could get a digital climate control. In the States it was just manual. This one is equipped with an Alpine 9823. I thought this was the same one I had in my car in high school, but this model came out in like 2005 or 6, I believe. Mine was a 78 series. It was a little bit older, but similar. Aftermarket Polk audio speakers actually sound pretty good. Changes for the 1990 model year included the hazard light being over here. Oh, only one of them's blinking. They both work outside the car though. As far as the gauges go, they're all analog. There's some idiot lights in the center here. For outside airflow, the lever was over here on the driver's side, and underneath it, ooh, there's all kinds of stuff. There's salt and some matches. Controls for the power moonroof, as well as I believe that's a 3.5mm audio jack for the aftermarket stereo. That is a cubby to store gummy bears. So a lever down here for tilt steering wheel. Well, that switch right there is for the aftermarket fog lights, I believe. To adjust the mirrors, there are little controls right here by the A-pillar. Anyone that's ever owned an ED EF generation Civic knows about the intake whistle. I love that about this car. It's like burnt into my mind from when I had this thing in high school. Just hearing that little whistle. For this car now being 35 years old, and the fact that it sat for quite a while at one point in time, in having almost 250,000 miles, it's held up pretty well. It's just mainly bushings and the soft rubbery bits that are all dry rotted on it that have gone bad. The shocks are blown out, needs valve stem seals. I still think this car is reliable even with everything being worn. The valve stem seals being bad, that also could be attributed to this car sitting for so long and not running. So I think it's held up relatively well. Aside from the AC not working, it's absolute bliss driving this little thing. Fuel efficiency, the needle hasn't budged. It's probably deep into the 30s even with this thing having this many miles on it. The cost of this car new, inflation adjusted to today's dollar, would be a little over $30,000. So it's not exactly cheap, but this was the top SI model. You could get much lower trim grade CRXs. So if you really kind of look at a new Civic Si, it's on par price-wise with a new Civic Si. And while we didn't get the SI-R here in the States, can't really compare it against the Type R because I think that would be its fair comparison. If you're not into front-wheel drive cars and you think they're kind of lame, I guarantee if you were a car enthusiast and you drove one of these old Hondas today, especially on a windy road, you'd get it. You'd instantly get it. It doesn't make sense on paper when you compare it to the performance of modern cars, acceleration and horsepower, but because this thing weighs absolutely nothing, it's kind of like playing an old school video game on a modern TV set. It doesn't look as good, but if you put an old school video game on an old tube TV, it just clicks and it makes sense. And that's how this car feels putting it on roads with the speed limits that we have today. 55 miles per hour feels like it's a racetrack. If you're watching this right now and you have the means to do so, save an old iconic car like this. Keep them on the road. It is now time to give my CRX pre-restoration some scores. Starting with the bean score, the assessment of the feeling you get in your gut when you give it the beans. And it earns a rating of. Next is the cookie score, the assessment of value. And as this was equipped back in 1990s money, it was just over $12,000. And it gets a rating of. Next is the wrench score, the assessment of ease of maintenance. And it gets a rating of. Followed by the squid score, the assessment of handling. And it gets a rating of. I had to lower the score some because keep in mind this has got almost 250,000 miles on it and a lot of the stuff is worn out and needing to be replaced. So it can't be perfect, but if it was all tip-top condition, yeah, this thing would decimate even new cars handling wise. Lastly is the penguin score, the assessment on how much I'm just gonna shut up. You know what it's gonna be. Obviously, I love this car. So hope you guys enjoyed this review and look forward to the next one when it's completely restored. We'll see how it ranks against its former self. See you guys in another video. Bye. Here, little cicadas. They're fucking loud.